You're probably here from my Instagram reel, or you might have just stumbled upon this because you're looking to get into the Warhammer hobby. I'm making this video because it's a hobby that I got into earlier this year, and I love it lots. This here is one of the paints I finished this year. This is my Terminator Captain. Now, thankfully, when I came into the hobby, GW had a lot of these starter kits made, so that made it very easy for me to kind of get in and buy big packs of things without having to sort of pick and choose and be quite unsure of my choices. So one of the first things that I'm going to recommend to you is the painting starter kit. You're going to start with all these wonderful paints and a pair of clippers for your models, and also this little brush. Now, I've actually never once used this starter brush, just because it's not the shape that I enjoy using when I paint. It's got a rectangular point, which I really don't like. I went on Amazon, and if you just search miniature brushes or paint brushes for painting minis, you're gonna get a bunch of things like these. These were $14 normally, and I got them for $10 on sale. Various shapes and sizes, but they are more pointed, which is what I enjoy for painting details. So the important things that you need to start off: paints, brushes, and clippers. You can't get your models out of their little plastic prisons without your clippers. The next thing you're going to want is, if you were painting, you're going to want primers. The starter kit that GW sells, the Ultramarines versus the Tyranids, claims that they come pre-primed. I've tried to paint them without using a painter primer on them. It does work, but it does take a few extra coats to really get the color that you are expecting. When you buy your primer, you're going to want to buy the big main base color of your army. So if you're going to do something like Ultramarines, you want to start with a blue, and if you're going to do something like a Black Templar, you're going to want to start with black. So whatever is going to make your painting process easier is what you want your primer colors to be. I have been actually warned against these brands, but I've used them on tons of my models, and I've never had a problem with them. I especially like this black one that I got is brand new, and I adore the way it's come out so far. Next thing that I highly recommend that you won't hear often talked about is an X-Acto knife. Not just great for the models, but it's because when you use these clippers, you're gonna get these little notches sometimes in the places where the clippers can't reach. X-Acto knives are great for shaving those off. Also, just if you want to do any technical, like you want to make a pauldron or a piece of armor look like it's had claw marks across it, these are great. But they're also wonderful for cutting out specific things you want on your transfer sheet. If I didn't have an X-Acto knife, I wouldn't know how I would get these out. Last but certainly not least, we have our glues. Now, if you're getting any model that isn't the starter kit, like I have pre-mentioned already, you need to glue them together. The starter kit has the little push-ins, so you actually don't need to glue them in. I glued mine in just for safety, but any other model that GW sells to you will not come like that. So if you're getting GW models, which are plastic, we recommend this. It's going to melt the plastic together. But if you are 3D printing resin models, or you're getting resin models from somebody online, you're going to need something like a Gorilla Glue, because this glue will not work on it because they're not made of plastic. The next thing we're going to talk about are your non-essentials. These are going to be your codexes, which are nice to have, and as well as your data cards. Data cards are basically what New Recruit is going to do for you. When you go in for a battle, you're gonna get on this website called New Recruit, and you'll be able to set up all the models that you have, and it'll tell you their attacks, their AP, their strength, their wounds, things like that that you're gonna need to know. Data cards are just the physical version of New Recruit. The one drawback to your data cards is, obviously, if GW updates its rules 3 months after you buy your data cards are now out of date and are not going to be the standard of tournaments or play or whatever you're doing. So data cards are nice if you want to collect something like that, but they're definitely not necessary. Codexes are the same. This is still a pretty new codex, but it already has outdated rules and other things in it, but I personally like having the codex just because it's got lots of fun lore, and if you're really into stuff like understanding, if you really want to paint to the codex, this is great for understanding. It teaches you what all the colors mean, what the different combinations of symbols mean and things like that, and also just tons of fun lore, especially for these newer codex that are coming out. Have tons of awesome stories. Like this one is for the Thousand Suns, has loads of fun stuff in it, and also just pretty art. Again, not necessary for you to play though. Now I'm going to talk about what I'm sure you're very excited to get into, which is our models. If you're going to get into either Space Marines or Tyranids, obviously the starter kit is a great place to start. There are two versions of the starter kit you can get. One that comes with terrain, which is more expensive, and the lesser expensive version, which does not come with terrain. That's the version that I have, and I'm going to go over everything that comes in it. You're going to get 2 rulers, a really big transfer sheet, some dice. This is not all the dice you get. I've lost a lot of them because I had my own dice prior to that because I played D&D as well, so I didn't really care for the plain white dice. But if you don't have dice, it's good to have them. You need them for the game. You're gonna get this handbook, which is going to have some lore. It's gonna have your building instructions for how to build all the models, and it's also going to have a bunch of rules at the back, and it's gonna teach you how to play some things. I don't know exactly what it teaches you because I never read it. It might teach you kill team, I don't know. It's got tutorials on attack sequences, movement. It's gonna train you how to do stuff. I never read it just because reading Warhammer, how to play the game, has always confused me. I've always done far better learning in person with people. The 2 data cards that I lifted up earlier are also going to come in this set. You're going to get one for all your Space Marines and one for all your Tyranids. You're going to get this fun battle map that has 2 different sides, one of which is going to be the inside of a building and the other is going to just be an empty dirt field. It is not big enough for 40k games, so if that's what you plan on learning, this is not going to be big enough. Me and my friend, just for fun, played a 40k game on this. It was complete and utter carnage because we were immediately in melee with one another within the first turn. It also, and if anybody knows better than me, please tell me. I don't know what this is, but it came with it. It's some, like, art. One side is the Tyranids, and the other side is the Ultramarines fighting Chaos. It looks like I'm supposed to cut these out, but I don't know what for. The book probably tells me, but I never read it. On to models. You're gonna get this big Tyranid. I can't remember its name, but he eats psychers, I know that much. He's a pretty cool model. He's got a Space Marine arm in some of his tendrils that he's eating. You're gonna get your Tyranid Captain. I believe it's a Tyranid Prime is what these are called. I don't know much about the space bugs, but I do like their models. I think they're cool. You're gonna get 20 of your standard Tyranids. You get 2 of these Ripper squads, Ripper swarms, 3 Leapers. I know that's not their real name, but I call them Leapers. That's all you get for your bugs. For your Space Marines, you don't get many, but what you do get are 2 very useful units. You're gonna get a squad of Flamers, which are incredible. This is the one that I attempted to paint without priming. Again, he came out very nice. The paint comes on quite nicely. I didn't have too much trouble. It's just going to take a few extra coats more than you would with a primer. And obviously I'm having to paint him black rather than just me priming him black. But Flamers are great, very versatile, very amazing for Overwatches. If you don't know what that means, you will know what that means when you learn the rules of the game. And last but not least, you get a Terminator squad. You're going to get 4 regular Terminators, your Sergeant, and your Terminator Captain. They obviously do not come painted. These are my own paints, and I am very proud of how my Terminators came out. Now, not everybody is going to play Adeptus Astartes or Tyranids, so the starter kit isn't going to work for everybody. So for everyone else, what are the options for you? Well, they're going to be your standard 10-man squads. These are going to be the things that you're going to build up your army with. Now, I'm only going to have Space Marines to show you because I play the Adeptus Astartes, so apologies. But your 10-man boxes are going to look something like this. You'll get 10, sometimes maybe only 5, depending on how your army works. Your other options are going to be all your characters or your vehicles. This is a lieutenant, chaplain, and apothecary. Now, these 3 look a little different because I did not buy these from GW. They were 3D printed for me, and those are resin models. We have our vehicles. This right here is a Ballistus Dreadnought, who I just actually painted. Model's pretty cool. I'm quite proud of him. And last, but certainly not least, there are your uber big character models. These are going to be things like your Primarchs and your Demon Princes, like Gilliman and Magnus the Red. Forgot to mention this. These big boxes are also nice ways to start your army. If you've played the game and you're sure that this is something you want to get into, because these boxes, especially after pre-orders and after like the big wave of sales, can reach like $300 on resales really quick, and then exceed that even later on. But if you know this is something you want to do, you've played the game, you know like, oh, this is the army that I love, these are also great options. They come with tons of stuff, great variety, and typically something quite powerful like a Terminator squad. Now, I do not recommend starting with any of this. I recommend starting with a 10-man squad that's going to be very useful for you in your first battles. So for me, as an Adeptus Astartes, it's going to be Flamers and Terminators and Assault Intercessors and things like that. Things that are going to bulk up my army in numbers and allow me to survive a little bit longer in the battle against the more veteran players who actually know what they're doing. These guys, these are for later on. These are your treats once you know you're into the hobby and this is something that you really want to continue. Another option that I've heard some other people, how they get into it and how they build up their army with more diversity rather than just 3 10-man squads, because they're quite expensive, is the kill team sets. I can't speak on those personally because I've never bought a kill team set. I've played kill team and it's really difficult for me. Not for everyone. I see a lot of other people have fun with it. It's not personally for me, but I can see how buying a kill team set would definitely help you getting your first models, because you'll get a very good variety right off the bat. Now, before you go buying your models, there's one more very important thing that you need to think about, and it's something that I actually forgot to even consider when I got into this, and I ended up paying the price for it in broken models, and that is your transport. How are you getting these models to your home, your dorm, to your club, or your local game store for your tournaments, or whatever, what have you? How are you going to get these guys from one place to the next safely? You can buy foam. GW has foam things that you can put them in, and there's a lot of other places that sell them as well, but they can be kind of pricey. What I recommend to people starting out, especially if you're not gonna immediately have something really expensive like Magnus that you need to protect, is that you can get really creative by buying things that are not for miniatures that will work for your miniatures. So one funny thing that works very well is stuff for stationaries, like your pens and pencils. I bought this from Target and it worked really well. When I had my original guys, when my army was small, but I quickly outgrew these. They're stackable, but they take up a lot of space and they're hard to carry. Another option is something more household. This came from Walmart. Simple bin. I have a friend who plays Chaos, he plays Night Lords, and he has a lot of demons, a lot of spikes, a lot of very intricate and pretty models, but are very fragile. He just throws them in one of these and calls it a day, and that's what works for him. I'm a little too scared to do that, so I use this for more general junk stuff and my extra parts that I have after building. One thing I have found that's strangely very good for carrying models is makeup stuff. So this is just a big old makeup crate that somebody who's traveling would use. You could also get a tackle box. That would work, because that's essentially what this is. I've got models in every single tier, as well as the bottom has a ton of extra space. So I mean, my Dreadnought has room to stand fully up, and there's a little room above him, and it works perfect. So don't get discouraged when you see foam for $40 or $30. You can get crafty, and you can buy something that's not necessarily for your miniatures that will keep them just as safe. That's all it really takes to get into this hobby. It can feel very overwhelming, but as I've laid out for you, it is quite simple. My biggest recommendation I can give to you is go and play the game first. Make sure that this is something you want to get into, because sometimes playing isn't what everyone wants to do, and maybe you just want to build and paint, and that's totally fine as well. Another incredible piece of information I can give you, or advice rather, is when you are picking your faction or your army that you want to play, do not pick what is the new meta or the new powerful army, because pretty soon, give it 9 months, and GW is going to change the rules, and then all of a sudden you're going to see everybody listing that army on eBay. Pick the army that you vibe with, that you enjoy the lore of, that you enjoy the ideas of. If you were in the Warhammer 40k universe, who would you align with? Who would you agree with? That's the army that you want to choose and pledge your alliances to, because you're going to have more fun painting them anyway. You're going to know their lore better, and you're going to enjoy them more. You're going to want to cheer them on the battlefield. And that, for me, was the Adeptus Astartes. So I can't recommend them enough. They're awesome, they're cool, and no matter what anybody says, what the canon is, you can have fun with them, you can paint them how you like, and you can tell the stories that you